Hey, how's it going, guys? I have a pretty special announcement. Tomorrow, or technically today, is the 4th of July, and I have made a special sale on the Liberal tier mugs. Through the 4th of July, there will be a 40% discount code on Liberal tier mugs, so be sure to go ahead and check them out. If you're ever going to get one, now's the chance. First link in the description. Thank you guys for watching the video. Let's get right to it.
Breitbart.com. Ben, what do you make of this interview? You think that it's a milestone, or that we in the media are simply just doing a setup?
You know, I'm happy for Michael Sam because he's being who he wants to be, and that's wonderful. I do think that the media is overblowing it because the media has a particular purpose here, and that is anytime the media senses a milestone, the milestone is directed against people who don't exist, namely this great vast number of people apparently who hate Michael Sam and hate gay people. I don't think America's a homophobic place. I don't think that Michael Sam is going to see much difficulty in the NFL. In fact, I think the NFL is already celebrating him, and I think that the vast majority of the American people look at this and they do exactly what they're supposed to do. They shrug and they say, I hope he's a great football player.
Don't you think the NFL is a homophobic place? They don't even have just one openly gay player.
Well, how about this? How about we identify the actual individual homophobes within the NFL and then we all condemn them, as opposed to worrying about an institutional bias that nobody seems to be able to actually document.
But do you think the NFL is ready for this?
I think the NFL is absolutely ready for this. Clearly, Missouri was, and Missouri isn't exactly the main state college of liberal arts. I mean, Missouri is a very red area of the United States, and his teammates on the campus obviously didn't think it was a big deal. I think it'll be fine for him in the NFL, and that's why I like what Michael Sam said. Michael Sam actually said, I don't think this is a big deal or really should be a big deal. I agree with him. I don't understand why the media makes it a big deal, and I'm wondering, you know, after he comes out and after he's accepted, is the media now going to move on to this next, you know, the first gay jockey? Are we going to move on to the first gay hockey player? Because the goal of the media in all of this is to create this bugaboo of the American populace as vastly homophobic, hating gay people, and therefore it is a massive challenge for any gay person in public life to come out. That's simply not true in America in 2014. And when the media portrays it as a great act of heroism for anybody to come out, look, I'm an Orthodox Jew, okay? I wear my yarmulke here on television. That doesn't make me a hero. I don't believe America is an anti-Semitic country. I don't believe that America is an anti-gay country.
Okay, so if it's not a big deal, for instance, Vice President Joe Biden, he just sent a tweet about it, and First Lady Michelle Obama, she said the following: you're an inspiration to all of us. We couldn't be prouder of your courage, both on and off the field. This is not something that you would find every day coming from the First Lady or the Vice President of the United States.
Right, it's politically motivated. The reason that the First Lady and the Vice President of the United States do this is they are implying that there is some sort of vast conspiracy to keep people like Michael Sam out of public life, and that's simply not true. Look, if you want to portray Michael Sam as Jackie Robinson here, then you actually need a Ben Chapman. You need somebody on the other side who's speaking out against Michael Sam and saying it's so terrible that Michael Sam came out of the closet, it's so terrible to have gay people in the NFL. I'm still looking for that human being.
Not precisely a conspiracy, but wouldn't you say that there's a lot of discrimination in this country against gays?
I would say overall there's a vastly minute amount of discrimination in this country against gays. The FBI statistics show there are about the same number of attacks on Jews in this country as there are on homosexuals, and this is not a country that discriminates against either Jews or homosexuals. And when we do find somebody who does discriminate against homosexuals, they should be called out by every person of good-hearted intent, as they are in the United States in 2014. This is not 1952.
All right, so let's listen to another voice. Former NFL coach Herm Edwards, he said the following to ESPN. Let's listen.
The thing you talk about in the organization with the GM and obviously the owner is, can we handle this guy? Can we handle the media that's going to come along with his situations? He's bringing baggage into your locker room.
So this kind of talk is real. I mean, we're not making that up. So,
well, yeah, that's exactly right. But there's a difference between saying that he's bringing media baggage in and saying that his sexual orientation is the baggage. Tim Tebow brought a lot of media baggage, too. That's probably why he's not working in the NFL right now. And it is true that because of all this commotion, because of all this hubbub, because Michael Sam chose to reveal his sexual orientation in the New York Times as opposed to going to his teams individually and talking with them, there is going to be an enormous amount of baggage brought into the locker room. But that's a different sort of baggage than the idea that just because he's gay, he's not going to get hired.
So talking about baggage, what do you think is going to happen during the draft? Do you think he's not going to be chosen simply because of what he did in the last 24 hours?
No, I mean, I think that probably there will be some teams that pass on him because they don't want the publicity associated with picking Michael Sam, but I think that he's going to be picked pretty close to where he was going to be picked anyway, because bottom line is, in America in 2014, thank God, this is a meritocracy, and I think that you look at football teams, and if they feel that Michael Sam can play and play well, they'll pick him.
Ben, so you think this is a non-story? I'm thinking of many young students, young players, who are seeing this story today as we speak, and they're just finding the courage to come out, to say, this is who I am.
I think precisely the opposite. I think the more casually we treat people coming out of the closet as opposed to a vast national celebration every time somebody comes out of the closet, that'll make it easier, not harder, for gay people to come out, because they're going to look at the situation and say, look, it's not about me facing discrimination. I don't have to overcome some sort of huge mythical challenge from the quote-unquote right-wing establishment. I can come out when I want, and I can do what I want with my life, and I don't have to face all of this discrimination. The more we play up the idea that there's discrimination, this sort of phantom discrimination, the harder it is for people to come out.
But I'm surprised, Ben, that you're saying that there's no discrimination in this country against gays.
I'm saying that compared to other countries, there is a minute amount of discrimination in this country against gays.
Hey, Ben, thanks so much for talking to us.
Thanks so much.
I really appreciate it.
And I see even some conservative women fall for this sort of thing. The idea that the American system is out to screw you somehow, that it's out to get you, that you're victims of a rape culture, that you're victim of a culture that wants to pay you less, that you're victims of a culture that is attempting to keep women back, hold women back, keep women down. This is absolute sheer nonsense. Women have never had it better in the history of humanity than in the United States in 2017. And I think that my wife is a great example of this. She's really able to have everything. She's a doctor. She has 2 kids. And the fact that she's able to live that life in America in 2017 is a testament to the fact that America is such a wonderful place. And that means that when people talk about a glass ceiling, there isn't a glass ceiling except in your own head. Except in the heads of people who put the glass ceiling there. There is no glass ceiling. And it takes a little bit of bravery to acknowledge that your life is in your own hands, that what you do with your life is your responsibility, that it's nobody's fault but your own if you fail in the United States as a general rule. You can do anything. You are capable of doing whatever it is that you want to do. That doesn't mean that everything's going to go your way. It doesn't mean that everybody is going to help you out the way that you would hope that they do. But no one cares enough to stand in your way. And if we're brave enough to acknowledge that freedom comes with responsibility and risk, then we are going to be able to succeed as Americans together. Second point, we always have to be brave enough to tell the truth. And for people who are interested in politics, this, of course, is the hardest thing, because there's always this tension in politics between telling people what they want to hear and telling the truth. Most people want to hear lies. Most people want to hear things that they want to hear all the time. And, I mean, you know this from your relationships. I know this from my marriage. Sometimes you don't want to say things to people you care about because you don't want to hurt their feelings. But in politics, it is imperative that you say things that are true, even if it hurts the feelings of people on your own side. So truth above partisanship. And never has that been more true than right now. Never has that been more true than right now in this moment. Because right now, Republicans, conservatives, Republicans, run the House, they run the Senate, they have the White House. And the temptation is to follow whatever it is that Republicans do and cheer it, no matter what. There's a tribal instinct that takes over in politics that essentially suggests that if the other side hates it, we must be doing something right. There's this weird idea out there that it's okay to lie if it's for your own side. It's okay to fib if it's for your own side. It's okay to cheat if it's for your own side. After all, the other side is doing it. Why would you deprive yourself of those tools? Why would you hamstring yourself? If the other side is willing to do all these terrible things to win, why shouldn't you be willing to do all these terrible things to win? So 2 points here. Number one, I don't think you actually have to do terrible things to win. If I believed that people had to do terrible things to win, I would not be in politics, and I would not believe in a representative democracy. Because the bottom line is, in a representative democracy, you have to be able to trust that people are going to be able to distinguish truth from falsehood, and it's our job to essentially deprogram people. Because you have millions and millions of Americans who have been programmed by a public education system and a media to believe certain things. But the answer to that is not to lie the way Democrats do. The answer to that is to tell the truth the way Democrats don't. To deprogram people, to tell the truth. And that also holds true for people on your own side, because you don't have the credibility, you, especially young people, you don't have the moral wherewithal to be able to stand up for your principles if you're not willing to stand up for your principles even when it may hurt you in the temporary now. And that's not some sort of deep read on the last election cycle. I'm not talking about who people voted for right now, because I think there are a lot of good reasons to vote for President Trump. I'm talking about the tendency that we all have in knee-jerk fashion to, instead of analyzing the issues, instead of analyzing the principles, say, people on my side like it, therefore it's good. And that's unacceptable. Something is either good or it's bad. It is not better or worse because people on your own side like it or do not. And that does take some courage. That takes some bravery to say to people who you've looked up to, people who you've listened to, that maybe they're wrong, that maybe they're doing things and saying things that are inappropriate. That takes some bravery. And again, that's something we're going to need to inculcate in our own movement. The third area in which we can be brave is probably the second hardest one. I think the one I just tackled is the hardest one. But the second hardest one is not to be intimidated by the other side. The fact that you're at this convention means that you're not intimidated by the other side. You're already brave enough to show up, show your face, be counted, learn. You know, that's already a step in the right direction. But it is very difficult being in the public eye and fighting these battles every day. It's hard enough when you're on a college campus and just trying not to get disinvited from the cool kid parties. It's hard enough when the professor is staring you in the eye and attempting to grade you down because you said something that you believed in. The nice thing here is that most of what the left does when it comes to demonizing you and calling you a jerk and calling you a racist, sexist, bigot, homophobe who hates the poor, most of what the left does when they do this is basically a phantom. It's a phantom monster. Once they've unleashed that and you say, no, you're just totally full of crap, there's no place for them to go from there. Because that was their trump card. That was as far as they are willing to go. Their entire worldview is based on the idea that you are a lesser person than they are, that you are a worse person than they are. And when you take that away from them, there's nothing left for them to fight you with. And that's why it's, I think, fun in a way to, as my mentor Andrew Breitbart said, walk toward the fire. Once you realize that they actually don't have anything in reserve, that once they call you a racist and you say, no, you're just an ass, that there's no backup, there's nothing for them to come back at you with, then it's actually sort of empowering. You don't have to worry so much about what you're going to say. Is it going to offend someone or not? You know you're not a racist. You know you're not a sexist. You know you're not a bigot. You know you're not a homophobe. You know all these things. So if somebody calls you these things, then it should be the same thing as someone calling you a tree or an octopus. It makes no difference to you. You're not any of these things. And anybody who says that you are one of these things is either lying or foolish. And it's that simple. And once you realize that, that's why I say it's not that hard once you learn how to do it. Once you take that first step over the threshold of not caring what people think about you, it's incredibly liberating. It's incredibly liberating. A fourth area in which we need to be brave, that is, we have to have the bravery to constantly re-examine our own ideas. So conservatism is based on certain fundamental principles, but how those principles apply to various modern-day issues is constantly changing. As an example, how we look at the issue of same-sex marriage has obviously changed from generation to generation. I personally am not in favor of same-sex marriage, but I am in favor of the government getting completely out of the business of marriage entirely. Now, 2 generations ago, that would have been considered a pretty extreme position. Now that's considered a relatively mainstream position. That's because it is our job to constantly be re-examining our own positions and making sure that we can defend them. Those of you who are about to go to college, in college right now, you are being given a grand opportunity to re-examine your own ideas. People on the left actually don't benefit from going to leftist colleges. They don't win. They go to leftist colleges and they hear what they want to hear and it's reinforced back to them. But when you go to a left college, then you actually sit there, you hear the points of the other side, you learn them, you learn their perspectives better than they know them, and then you learn how to counter them. And sometimes maybe they have a good idea that you integrate once every 1,000 years. And if you have the bravery to constantly be re-examining your own ideas and fearlessly looking at whether you still believe what you used to believe 2 years ago, then you're going to be more honest about it. Because what I find is that the people who tend to be convinced into leftism are people who have really never thought about the ideas that they were granted by their parents. That people whose parents brought them up conservative, then they never examined those ideas, they just sort of took them for granted. And then the left hits them with ideas they haven't heard before. They sometimes shatter because they've never actually spent time learning why it is they believe what they believe. So it's imperative that you examine why it is you believe what you believe. And if you don't believe something, then you should just say so. It's a free country. Nobody's mandating that you believe anything. Final point. I think that we have to be brave enough to teach and not just preach. And as the country gets more polarized, the easiest thing to do is to double down on the base. Yeah, the stuff that's made me popular in many cases is some of these viral videos where I'm shellacking some college student. And to be frank with you, that's the easy part of my job. Right? Yeah, the thug life stuff is not hard, right? I mean, that's usually the easiest part of my job. The hardest part of my job is making arguments that people will actually listen to on the other side. The thug life stuff is entertaining, so it helps introduce people to the topic, but then you actually have to have enough data, you have to have enough knowledge, you have to have enough wisdom to be able to promulgate points that the other side is willing to listen to. And I'm flattered that there are a lot of people on the other side who email me every day and say, you know, I'm a Democrat, but I've listened to what you've been saying, and it's opened me up to some new ideas. That's what we have to do, because the easiest thing, again, if you go into politics itself, elective politics, the easiest thing to do is just pander to everybody. I wrote a column in National Review this week all about how people are doing this with anger. The easiest thing to do in American politics right now is just pander to people's anger. Oh, you're angry because the jobs have left your Rust Belt town. Okay, so what? What are you going to do about it? Right? What politicians say is, you have a right to be angry because you're getting screwed by the Mexicans or the Chinese, or you're being screwed by the corporations. That's cheap. It's not worthy of the United States. There's anger that's justified and there's anger that's not justified. The difference between, I think, President Reagan and President Trump is that President Trump seems to double down on his base an awful lot and go back to his base and rely on his base, which is fine, but he's not somebody who's teaching people to think in a different way. Reagan was attempting to drag the country along with him. Reagan was attempting to convince people he was trying to convince people to think in new and different ways. And the great thought leaders in the conservative movement have always tried to do that.
Hello, everyone. Hey, I'm just stopping by to remind you that liberals are insane. Social justice warriors are becoming more violent and triggered than ever before. Anyways, be sure to subscribe to KGPTV on YouTube and have a blessed day. Yeah, man.
On the campus, obviously didn't think it was a big deal. I think it'll be fine for him in the NFL, and that's why I like what Michael Sam said. Michael Sam actually said, I don't think this is a big deal or really should be a big deal. I agree with him. I don't understand why the media makes it a big deal, and I'm wondering, you know, after he comes out and after he's accepted, is the media now going to move on to this next, you know, the first gay jockey? Are we going to move on to the next, the first gay hockey player? Because the goal of the media in all of this is to create this bugaboo of the American populace as vastly homophobic, hating gay people, and therefore it is a massive challenge for any gay person in public life to come out. That's simply not true in America in 2014. And when the media portrays it as a great act of heroism for anybody to come out, look, I'm an Orthodox Jew, okay? I wear my yarmulke here on television. That doesn't make me a hero. I don't believe America is an anti-Semitic country. I don't believe that America is an anti-gay country.
Okay, so if it's not a big deal, for instance, Vice President Joe Biden, he just sent a tweet about it, and First Lady Michelle Obama, she said the following, you're an inspiration to all of us. We couldn't be prouder of your courage, both on and off the field. This is not something that you would find every day coming from the First Lady or the Vice President of the United States.
Right, it's politically motivated. The reason that the First Lady and the Vice President of the United States do this is they are implying that there is some sort of vast conspiracy to keep people like Michael Sam out of public life, and that's simply not true. Look, if you want to portray Michael Sam as Jackie Robinson here, then you actually need a Ben Chapman. You need somebody on the other side who's speaking out against Michael Sam and saying it's so terrible that Michael Sam came out of the closet, it's so terrible to have gay people in the NFL. I'm still looking for that human being.
Not precisely a conspiracy, but wouldn't you say that there's a lot of discrimination in this country against gays?
I would say overall there's a vastly minute amount of discrimination in this country against gays. The FBI statistics show there are about the same number of attacks on Jews in this country as there are on homosexuals, and this is not a country that discriminates against either Jews or homosexuals. And when we do find somebody who does discriminate against homosexuals, they should be called out by every person of good-hearted intent as they are in the United States in 2014. This is not 1952.
All right, so let's listen to another voice. Former NFL coach Herman Edwards, he said the following to ESPN. Let's listen.
The thing you talk about in the organization with the GM and obviously the owner is, can we handle this guy? Can we handle the media that's going to come along with his situations? He's bringing baggage into your locker room.
So this kind of talk is real. I mean, we're not making that up. So,
well, yeah, that's exactly right. But there's a difference between saying that he's bringing media baggage in and saying that his sexual orientation is the baggage. Tim Tebow brought a lot of media baggage, too. That's probably why he's not working in the NFL right now. And it is true that because of all this commotion, because of all this hubbub, because Michael Sam chose to reveal his sexual orientation in the New York Times as opposed to going to his teams individually and talking with them, there's going to be an enormous amount of baggage brought into the locker room. But that's a different sort of baggage than the idea that just because he's gay, he's not going to get get hired.
So talking about baggage, what do you think is going to happen during the draft? Do you think he's not going to be chosen simply because of what he did in the last 24 hours?
No, I mean, I think that probably there will be some teams that pass on him because they don't want the publicity associated with picking Michael Sam, but I think that he's going to be picked pretty close to where he was going to be picked anyway, because bottom line is in America...
Hey, how's it going, guys? I have a pretty special announcement. Tomorrow, or technically today, is the 4th of July, and I have made a special sale on the Liberal tier mugs. Through the 4th of July, there will be a 40% discount code on Liberal tier mugs, so be sure to go ahead and check them out. If you're ever going to get one, now's the chance. First link in the description. Thank you guys for watching the video. Let's get right to it.
Breitbart.com. Ben, what do you make of this interview? You think that it's a milestone, or that we in the media are simply just doing a setup?
You know, I'm happy for Michael Sam because he's being who he wants to be, and that's wonderful. I do think that the media is overblowing it because the media has a particular purpose here, and that is anytime the media senses a milestone, the milestone is directed against people who don't exist, namely this great vast number of people apparently who hate Michael Sam and hate gay people. I don't think America's a homophobic place. I don't think that Michael Sam is going to see much difficulty in the NFL. In fact, I think the NFL is already celebrating him, and I think that the vast majority of the American people look at this and they do exactly what they're supposed to do. They shrug and they say, I hope he's a great football player.
But don't you think the NFL is a homophobic place? They don't even have just one openly gay player.
Well, how about this? How about we identify the actual individual homophobes within the NFL and then we all condemn them, as opposed to worrying about an institutional bias that nobody seems to be able to actually document.
But do you think the NFL is ready for this?
I think the NFL is absolutely ready for this. Clearly, Missouri was, and Missouri isn't exactly the main state college of liberal arts. I mean, Missouri is a very red area of the United States, and his teammates...
I think that my wife's a great example of this. She's really able to have everything. She's a doctor. She has 2 kids. And the fact that she's able to live that life in America in 2017 is a testament to the fact that America is such a wonderful place. And that means that when people talk about a glass ceiling, there isn't a glass ceiling except in your own head. Except in the heads of people who put the glass ceiling there. There is no glass ceiling. And it takes a little bit of bravery to acknowledge that your life is in your own hands, that what you do with your life is your responsibility, that it's nobody's fault but your own if you fail in the United States as a general rule. You can do anything. You are capable of doing whatever it is that you want to do. That doesn't mean that everything's going to go your way. It doesn't mean that everybody is going to help you out the way that you would hope that they do. But no one cares enough to stand in your way. And if we're brave enough to acknowledge that freedom comes with responsibility and risk, then we are going to be able to succeed as Americans together. Second point, we always have to be brave enough to tell the truth. And for people who are interested in politics, this, of course, is the hardest thing, because there's always this tension in politics between telling people what they want to hear and telling the truth. Most people want to hear lies. Most people want to hear things that they want to hear all the time. And, I mean, you know this from your relationships. I know this from my marriage. Sometimes you don't want to say things to people you care about because you don't want to hurt their feelings. But in politics, it is imperative that you say things that are true, even if it hurts the feelings of people on your own side. So truth above partisanship. And never has that been more true than right now. Never has that been more true than right now in this moment. Because right now, Republicans, conservatives, Republicans, run the House.
In 2014, thank God. This is a meritocracy, and I think that you look at football teams, and if they feel that Michael Sam can play and play well, they'll pick him.
Ben, so you think this is a non-story? I'm thinking of many young students, young players, who are seeing this story today as we speak, and they're just finding the courage to come out, to say, this is who I am.
I think precisely the opposite. I think the more casually we treat people coming out of the closet as opposed to a vast national celebration, every time somebody comes out of the closet, that'll make it easier, not harder, for gay people to come out, because they're going to look at the situation and say, look, it's not about me facing discrimination. I don't have to overcome some sort of huge mythical challenge from the quote-unquote right-wing establishment. I can come out when I want, and I can do what I want with my life, and I don't have to face all of this discrimination. The more we play up the idea that there's discrimination, this sort of phantom discrimination, the harder it is for people to come out.
But I'm surprised, Ben, that you're saying that there's no discrimination in this country against gays.
I'm saying that compared to other countries, there is a minute amount of discrimination in this country against gays.
Hey, Ben, thanks so much for talking to us.
Thanks so much.
I really appreciate it.
And I see even some conservative women fall for this sort of thing. The idea that the American system is out to screw you somehow, that it's out to get you, that you're victims of a rape culture, that you're victim of a culture that wants to pay you less, that you're victims of a culture that is attempting to keep women back, hold women back, keep women down. This is absolute sheer nonsense. Women have never had it better in the history of humanity than in the United States in 2017.